Have you ever looked at your grocery receipt and felt your stomach drop before you even put the bags in the car? That uneasy feeling isn't paranoia. It's history repeating itself. In 1933, families lined up for miles with tin cups and empty stomachs, waiting for a single ladle of soup. Nearly a century later, in 2025, the breadline hasn't vanished. It's just moved inside Walmart, Costco, and Kroger. The line is at the checkout, and the rationing happens in your cart. America isn't on the edge of history. We're living inside it. Bread, the warning sign. Bread, the simplest food in the world, once symbolized abundance. Now it's a warning sign. In 1930, a loaf cost a nickel. Adjusted for inflation, that should be about $1 today. Instead, families are paying $4. A basic grocery trip now feels like an act of survival. Back in 2022, white bread sat on shelves for $2.50. In 2025, that same loaf hits $4.20. Nearly double, while paychecks haven't moved an inch. Did your income double in 3 years? No, but your expenses did. And that's just bread, the opening chapter of a crisis that's rewriting the American diet. Because once the cheapest food becomes expensive, everything else follows. But it's not just about money. It's about dignity, the kind that slips away quietly when parents start putting items back at checkout. Milk and eggs, the collapse of the basics. Milk, once the cornerstone of every breakfast table, is turning into a luxury item. 2 years ago, you could grab a gallon for $3.50. In 2025, it's breaking $6 in most states, pushing toward $7 in major cities. Eggs, once the symbol of cheap protein, now tell a brutal story. In 2022, a dozen cost $1.50. Now, it's 4 to 60 years, more than a 200% increase. Families that rely on multiple cartons a week are being forced to ration, a word we thought belonged in history books. And here's the dark irony. Unemployment is under 5%. Everyone's working, but no one can afford to live. That's not progress. That's collapse with better branding. Even the working class, once called the backbone of America, is now being priced out of breakfast. But if you think skipping eggs will save your wallet, think again. The next aisle is worse. The protein problem. Step into the meat section and you'll see what desperation looks like on a price tag. Chicken breast, the go-to dinner for millions, climbed from $2.99 to $5.50 per pound. Ground beef past $7. Bacon, once a Sunday treat, is creeping toward $10. When the cheapest proteins become luxuries, diets collapse. Families pivot to processed food. Cheaper calories, longer shelf life, worse health. That's the trade-off millions are making every week. Nutrition for survival. Because in America 2025, health costs more than hunger. Even coffee, the one ritual people cling to, isn't safe. A pound that cost $5 now sells for $8. Premium blends have entered double digits. Every morning sip is a reminder. Even comfort comes with a price tag. This isn't inflation anymore. It's erosion of value, of quality, of hope. And it's not happening in the shadows. It's happening under fluorescent lights, aisle by aisle. The corporate illusion Walmart was once the savior of the budget shopper. Costco promised bulk savings. Whole Foods, a glimpse of luxury. But in 2025, all three tell the same story. Rising prices, shrinking hope. A 5-pound bag of flour at Walmart that sold for $2 in 2023 now costs $3.50, a 75% jump. A 10-pack of frozen chicken breasts went from $10 to $15. At Costco, even bulk is breaking budgets. A case of canned tomatoes jumped from $18 to $25. A tub of peanut butter that once fed families for weeks now costs tens instead of $7. These aren't just numbers, they're the slow bleed of the middle class. the hidden tax of existing. And while families drown, corporations surf the wave. Kroger's 2024 earnings rose 22%. Tyson Foods hiked prices by 14%, pocketing billions. Analysts call it greedflation. But let's call it what it is: legalized theft, disguised as economics. The hidden triggers: inflation, tariffs, and the domino effect. To understand the collapse, you have to look beneath the shelves. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports grocery prices rose 11% in 2024, on top of 13% in 2023. That's nearly 25% inflation in 2 years. Meanwhile, wages crawled up just 4% annually. Then came the tariffs. In early 2025, sweeping taxes on imports from China, Mexico, and Europe were sold as protecting American jobs. But at the checkout counter, they feel like punishment. Rice imports up 20%. Canned tuna up 25%. Imported cheese up 30%. Coffee beans up 15%. Families paying $20 a week for staples now pay $30. That's $500 gone every year, a stealth tax hidden in plain sight. Tariffs triggered retaliation too. Mexico hit US beef. China taxed soybeans and wheat. Farmers pay more for fertilizer. Consumers pay more for food. Everyone loses, except the corporations that raise prices and call it adjustment. And hovering above it all is the ghost of inflation, the force that eats paychecks faster than they're earned. But even inflation has accomplices. When nature joins the war, 2024 wasn't just expensive, it was catastrophic. Extreme droughts slashed corn yields by 15%. Floods in California wiped out lettuce and strawberries. Global wheat production fell 18% after disasters in Ukraine and Argentina. Food scarcity used to be a headline from faraway countries. Now it's a reality in the richest nation on Earth. Transport costs haven't recovered either. Diesel prices remain 30% higher than pre-pandemic. Every truckload, from California's Central Valley to New York, carries that cost. Stamped onto every tomato, every apple, every head of lettuce. We like to believe food shortages are temporary. But what if they're not? What if they're the new normal? Because when climate chaos, broken logistics, and greed collide, you get a grocery bill that feels like a threat. The human toll. For millions, the crisis isn't measured in percentages. It's measured in skipped dinners. A 2025 Feeding America report revealed 1 in 4 U.S. households skipped meals at least once a week. That's double the number from 2019. The USDA says 17 million households now live with food insecurity, nearly 50 million people. 50 million Americans unsure if they'll eat tomorrow. The cost isn't only physical, it's psychological. The American Psychological Association reported a 34% spike in anxiety and depression linked to food stress between 2022 and 2025. Imagine working full-time, only to ration groceries. A mother putting back fruit at checkout. A father eating less so his kids can have more. A child opening an empty fridge and pretending not to notice. Food banks are overwhelmed. Lines wrap around blocks. Feeding America distributed over 6 billion meals in 2025, a record high. These are the new breadlines. Not on street corners, but in drive-through donation lanes, headlights stretching into the night. And underneath it all, another silent monster: debt. Americans charged $68 billion in groceries on credit cards in 2024. With interest rates over 20%, that $200 grocery trip can balloon into $250 if unpaid. Families aren't just buying food, they're financing it. That's not living. That's survival with a balanced due. The future, nobody wants to see, so where does this end? If food prices rose 25% in 2 years, what happens by 2026? The USDA forecasts another 7 to 9% rise this year. Milk could pass $7, eggs could hit $6, ground beef could touch $9 a pound. For a family of 4, that's nearly $15,000 a year in groceries, a number once reserved for college tuition. And as prices rise, stores in low-income areas close. Food deserts already trap 19 million Americans. That number could exceed 25 million by 2026. When supermarkets vanish, families are left with corner stores and fast food chains. Nutrition dies first. Health follows. Debt continues to climb, possibly $80 billion in grocery charges by the end of 2025. People financing food like they finance cars. Meanwhile, analysts warn of tariffs escalating. Moody's predicts food inflation could spike another 12 to 15% if policies continue unchanged. Add $800 to every family's grocery bill. Climate models show droughts worsening, floods spreading, and harvests shrinking. The FAO projects another 15% rise in wheat prices if global conflicts persist. And for the first time in generations, hunger is crossing into the suburbs. Pew Research found 41% of suburban households cut grocery spending due to costs. The face of hunger isn't urban or rural anymore. It's everywhere. When a nation can't feed itself, history always ends the same way: in unrest. In the 1930s, it was bread riots. In the 1970s, it was food protests. In 2025, economists whisper about potential instability, because hunger has always been gasoline on the fire of anger. Already, 68% of Americans blame government policy. Over half believe corporations are gouging. That's not just frustration, it's the spark before ignition. The mirror of history. This isn't just economics, it's identity. America, the land of abundance, now counts change at checkout. The country that once fed the world is now struggling to feed itself. Every receipt is a history lesson. Every grocery trip, a silent protest. We used to read about the Great Depression. Now we're living the sequel. It doesn't have a new name because it doesn't need one. The Great Depression never really ended. It just changed shape. It's back. It's in your kitchen. And it's staring at you every time you open the fridge.